Hi, everybody. My name is Nicole Knoll. I'm the CEO of East and Ivy of Keller Williams Capital Properties located in Belmont Bay. I'm also a residential owner and commercial asset owner here in Belmont. We wanted to meet with Jay here today to kind of talk about the things that are going on in our neighborhood, the small area plan, and see if we can add any clarity to what we have going on in the neighborhood. I also wanted to mention that we have in times like this, we're very COVID conscious. So we knew that we needed to sit in close proximity to one another, so we all got tested and tested negative. So, Jen?
I'm Jennifer Lynch. I am also a resident of Belmont Bay and a realtor in the community. And we're excited to talk with Jay today, like Nicole said, and kind of gain some clarity of what's going on in our beautiful home here.
Yeah, Jay, who are you?
Well, thanks for inviting me, Nicole and Jen. Again, my name is Jay Sotos. I work for Caruthers Properties, and I'm a development director for them. And I'm involved with, my sole focus is Belmont Bay. And since the adoption of the small area plan in October of 2019, I've been studying it and trying to understand resident needs and formulate a plan for the family to move forward.
I love that. So for people who don't know, Jay, who are the Caruthers and what do they mean to this community?
Preston Caruthers was a prominent Arlington real estate developer, and in the 1960s he bought the land, which is now Belmont Bay, and his family for 3 generations has been developing this as a passion project since the 60s, and it was initially Preston, his sons, and now the 3rd generation has taken over the family business and is seeing through the development of the project. So this is very unique for a planned community to have family involvement for that long.
Right.
And it's part business and part altruistic, very involved with the community, donated land to George Mason, land for the VRE station, donated
Those
land,
were all donated?
All donated without any consideration. Donated land for the Belmont Bay Elementary because, again, he wanted to fulfill his vision of building a village on the water.
Absolutely.
Now, being a part of the community, we've had the opportunity to sit in on several town hall meetings with Supervisor Franklin to learn more about the small area plan that's in the works since, October of 19. Can you talk to us more about that? What is the small area plan
Absolutely,
exactly?
Jen. Well, it goes back further than that. In 2016, the Board of Supervisors recognized that the vision for Woodbridge needed to be updated, and they initiated the small area plan for North Woodbridge. And basically driven by 2 factors. One is growth is inevitable in Prince William County, and Supervisor Principe has said that, and to plan for growth. Secondarily, Woodbridge hasn't seen its fair share of investment. It's an older part of the county, and it needs to be revitalized. And thirdly, uniquely, Woodbridge is blessed with great modes of transportation. We have the VRE station, the water, the commuter lot, Route 1 and 95. So those events spurred the Board of Supervisors to initiate the plan in 2016, and through several public processes, charrettes, it culminated with approval in 2019.
Beautiful.
So you've got the small area plan that's going to directly affect the Route 1 area, but you also have additional resources that are thought to be brought into Belmont Bay. Can you explain what those additional assets are?
Well, in the small area plan, again, through a public process that took over 3 years, led by Supervisor Principe in the planning department, they came up with a vision for Belmont Bay. One is to revitalize the waterfront and capitalize on it for economic development, to spur businesses, attract restaurants, shops and restaurants down here. Secondarily, a big focus of the smaller plan is the closed Ospreys Golf Course. And the golf course was roughly 125 acres, and the county tried to, through the process, come up with a balance. And in that, the culmination of that was 2/3 of the golf course would be preserved as open space for active and passive restoration, and 1/3 would be for development. And really to create 2 things: a healthy ecological system and also a healthy social system, a social environment to create an opportunity for young families to buy into Belmont Bay, have an opportunity to home ownership that we all enjoy.
Now, Jay, as you're aware, there's a petition going around Belmont Bay, essentially trying to overturn the small area plan. What are your thoughts about that?
Well, we just became aware of the petition recently, and I really want to, I understand the frustration of residents and seeing change. And I think it's based on a couple things that I'd like to clarify. One is a lack of citizen involvement. Again, small area plan, Supervisor Franklin had 4 town halls on it, as you mentioned, and where she provided the sign-in lists of all the people that participated, the different events, the presentations, and very prominent officers of the Belmont Bay Homeowners Association were present and participated. And so there's this one frustration that it wasn't legitimately conducted, and I think the evidence says something different. Secondarily, again, as Supervisor Franklin said, the Belmont Bay is just a guide. It's a non-binding guide. She used the term blueprint. And frankly, the Board of Supervisors can adopt all of it, none of it, or part of it. And the rezoning process, which the Caruthers family is looking into, is really the details of what any proposal would like, and with the details of where the housing's going, where the retail's going, the shops, and how the parks, and that's really the binding document. And we're, thinking about putting that together now, and I think we should focus our attention on that document rather than trying to undo a non-binding document.
Absolutely. So one of the things in that petition, it mentions the concern for environmental impact in our beautiful community here. So what would that look like? Are there going to be studies?
Absolutely, Nicole. As part of any rezoning application, and we've actually started the process, we've surveyed the wetlands, we've surveyed the water shore, we've surveyed all the environmental constraints. And in a rezoning package, there's a document called the ECA, the Environmental Constraints Analysis, and we have to submit that, and staff scrutinizes it to make sure that there are no material impacts to the environment. Right. And they are the protector, a very staunch protector of the environment, and they'll be sure that we don't make negative impacts.
Wonderful. Do you know why the county, so they want these parks, which is one of the points of contention with this petition?
Right. One of the contentions in the small area plan was, again, the 2/3 of the golf course. The small area plan called for them to become both passive and active recreation for not only the residents of Belmont Bay, but residents
Prince William County
for
in
Prince William County in general.
Okay.
And and that's really a point of contention, and a valid one, and one open for debate. And I guess from the county's perspective, they see the shoreline as just not a resource for neighborhood. It's
right.
a resource for all of Prince William.
Absolutely.
And they want to share that with everyone. And you've seen in other counties like Old Town Alexandria, they just went through a process where they converted private ownership on the water to create a public park. So the idea of the private folks controlling water access is people are moving away from that, and they want the public to get access and enjoy it without strings attached, without having to go to a restaurant, without having to buy a certain thing. They can bring their family here and enjoy it, for free.
I'm glad that you mentioned Old Town Alexandria, because that's all the we were talking briefly about what does that mean as far as what you're looking to bring here. So the sports facilities, is there a plan for a restaurant? Is there a plan for actual public water access?
Well, we've heard one of the things that the community is looking for is food and beverage facilities, a place to gather, so they, you come home after work, you just can casually go and walk for someplace, and that's very important to us. And it's important because people want it. I think it's also financially important. We've looked at the walk scores for various successful communities. Old Town, out of 1 to 100, Old Town is in the 90s. Walker's Paradise in Belmont Bay is in the teens, is very card dependent. Yeah. We know walk score directly correlates with home values. If we can drive those amenities here, and we have a plan to bring food and beverage to the community.
Well, Jay, not to harp on this food and beverage and restaurant possibilities, but what can you tell us about a potential restaurant that's coming in? Residents who are original owners here, they were promised all the things.
The moon and the stars.
Yeah, and we never got it. So what does that look like for what you guys are bringing to Belmont potentially?
Jen, that's a very legitimate concern, and I can appreciate that. And the family, the Caruthers family had tried to open 2 restaurants, as you may know, and the Ospreys, they both failed. They lost hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to fulfill that promise for the residents. And we've had to look at it. And we know it's not acceptable to say, we're going to have space for a restaurant, and then 5 years later, let's say the market doesn't accept it and doesn't come. So our plan works in concert with our new HOA. Back to some of the things that we've heard from the residents and the concern about the HOA. We had to create it after the Belmont Bay HOA wasn't willing to annex our Miller and Smith community, which was a short-term setback, so we created this HOA.
And for those of you who don't understand, we now have multiple HOAs in this community. Whenever Miller and Smith was building, a petition went out and asked if they wanted to accept into our current HOA, our master HOA, and that was denied. So now they have a secondary HOA.
So that was a short-term setback, and we took the opportunity to create a new HOA for the community for our future development. But with that, we created a mechanism in the new HOA, so new residents that will be buying in will be almost kind of members of a country club, where they will be sponsoring deficits and sponsoring the operation of a food and beverage facility. So when we build it on the water, and we plan to build it, by the way, right where the old Harbor Master building is, it's going to be open to everyone, but our new HOA residents, if there's a deficit and the revenues don't cover expenses, they will be covering the shortfalls. That's built into the budget. It's disclosed in their disclosure package. And in our testing, our market testing of builders and buyers, the prospect of assuring them food and beverage is more important than the minor deficit funding they have to do. So that the HOA is creating a mechanism so that when we build it, we don't have to say, we can't lease it. Mm-hmm. It's going to happen no matter what.
We were lucky enough to see the concept last night, which we'll show on screen for all of you guys to be able to see. But can you describe, it's a big, beautiful building. And so what does that clubhouse look like? What does that food, the concept being a food hall in a way, what does all of that look like?
Well, we studied, since the approval of the small area plan in October of 2019, we've been studying what this wants to be. This is a complex project. You have waterfront, you have a traditional walkable community. And we came up with this idea of a beacon. Mm-hmm. A beacon, having a restaurant symbol, welcoming folks on the water, similar to a lighthouse. A beacon connotes safety and welcoming. And so we designed almost like a burning ember where you see that it draws you in. And so our building is called the Beacon, and it's roughly 10,000 square feet. On the top level will be the public restaurant. We're focusing on making the food hall similar to Union Market in DC, which will have multiple concepts, bar, coffee, various ethnic concepts, and it allows us flexibility to change concepts with changing tastes. Mm-hmm. It'll be casual, so folks can come in after soccer practice, after work, with their kids, grandkids, everyone's welcome. And the lower level of the Beacon building, and we'll show it to you shortly, we'll have something called the Beacon Club. And the new HOA is also, that's going to be exclusive facilities for folks who have fitness, a party room, place to gather, an outdoor patio right on the water, right where our Harbor Master building is now.
That's so exciting.
And that'll be a private space. And we are, there's been talk about, I've heard the current HOA was frustrated that they didn't have their own community.
So Jennifer and I are actually on the social committee. I'm the chair of the social committee and Jen is the treasurer. So we have a very intimate understanding of how frustrated we are by not having a gathering space for our incredible residents and our community.
Yes, and that's frustrating. And we've been asked to give land so you guys can build your own building, and then we would have our own. And the idea of having two clubhouses didn't seem to make sense for us. We were one community, and we're all neighbors. Mm-hmm. So the idea of centralizing it, since we're sponsoring it, we can actually give it the best location possible right on the water. Right. And that way, we're going to create this clubhouse. And although the Belmont Conservancy residents will be shouldering the burden, mm-hmm. Belmont Bay HOA residents, we're going to give them an opportunity to opt in as social members so they can benefit from those private facilities as well. And we have reached out to the board of directors of the HOA to work on that and other coordinating items so we can figure out a way to make that happen.
I love that.
So Jay, residents, there's some concern around the burden that might put on them financially in all this new development coming in. What additional costs would there be? Are there any? What can you tell us about that?
Jen, that's a great question, and we heard that at the town halls, that our project will have costs that'll be borne by the current HOA, Belmont Bay HOA, and that's why we created a new HOA. We're going to have that as a vehicle to carry costs for the new project. One cost that the county will potentially require is a shuttle bus to the VRE. That'll be part of our new HOA. And guess what? Existing residents will be able to use it. So there'll be costs that the current HOA, our new HOA will bear. The new HOA bears the maintenance of the open space, the cart paths. And regardless of that, I'd like to work with the board and have an accounting and figure out, what they're feeling that, they need reimbursement from, and as well as the conservancy, what costs they're incurring that benefit Belmont Bay residents, and true that up so it seems fair.
One of the other things that I kept hearing is the concern over adding additional parking here. Have you guys thought about that as far as like the pushback that you were receiving from the community and kind of how to offset what your initial plans were?
Well, yeah, and that goes back to the park. So I was concerned, especially by River Club members, that there was a parking lot in front of their building for the park, and we have ideas about to relocate that. And the parking lot in front of the River Club is inappropriate. The parking lot on Course-View Way is inappropriate, and we want to open up the dialogue with the Belmont Bay HOA to show our ideas. And we think we can be the advocate. Instead of residents feeling like they have to reach out to the county, we can, since the county wants the land from us, we can say, we'll dedicate that as a proffer, subject to these adjustments which the residents want. Right. So we can guide that and advocate for the residents if we can get on the same page.
I love that. So just to be clear, this is not an end-all be-all for you guys. You actually want to open a dialogue with our community and have open communication and discuss what we need and what we want so we can be advantageous to everyone in our community.
Yes, we do. We want to open up a dialogue. We want the community to be part of the process. You guys live here. You guys know the details, and we want to work with folks. Absolutely. And I feel like honestly the petition was a kind of all or nothing, which is no parks, no nothing, a comp plan. And I think there's room for compromise, and I want to communicate, work with folks that think there's a middle ground that we can find.
Absolutely. Well, I know I love Belmont Bay. We've been selling and living here for quite some time, and it's definitely a very special place that no one knows exists, that we would like the entire world to know exists. So is there anything else specifically that you want our viewers to know, essentially?
Well, I think part of it's next steps, and I think there's been a concern that we're going to rush in and the residents are missing the process, and there's a timeline and urgency. It's like there's no urgency. If the board will work with us, then we can work on a schedule together. There's not going to be some bum rush to submit this, or so we want a transparent process. So again, we've owned this property for 50 years. A few more months or whatever, working together will be fine. Secondarily, we're also going to reach out to the boards of the various sub-associations, Marine Landing, Harbor Point, and the other boards. We're going to reach out to them and communicate directly with them, and have many meetings with them, and they can invite their residents. And we want to meet as many folks as we can. Again, this is my full-time job, work on Belmont Bay. I have no other distractions, and we'll put my contact information up on the video, and I welcome emails, phone calls, texts. We have our Facebook page, which will be also an important point of communication for us as we announce meetings and events.
Perfect. And what is your phone number, just in case?
Phone number 703-967-0357. Call me anytime.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jay, so much for your time. Thank you, Jen, for being able to sit here and have this conversation with you. Obviously, we love this community. We want to see it grow. The further development that we have in here means further value rising for you in your home. So whatever we can do to help this community grow and to be the best that it can be, we're here for that. So.
Well, thanks for inviting me, Nicole and Jen, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the project, which I love as well.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.